For those of you who don't know me, I'm Restuccia, the Director of Water Management Solutions for Valley Crest Landscape Maintenance. I worked for Valley Crest for the past 3 years. Before that, I worked 10 years for a major irrigation manufacturer. I have a master's in science from Arizona State University. I learned technology working for IBM in the early 90s. I have a real passion for water management. I find that my educational background, hands-on work experience, and passion for water management creates a perfect positive storm for working in the sustainability arena. Combining that with the resources of Valley Crest, and by resources I mean the largest fully integrated landscape company in the world with over 11,000 employees and 110 maintenance branches nationwide, we have a solid chance of making a positive impact on sustainability. You know, Valley Crest was founded over 60 years ago in 1949 by Bert Sperber, who still comes into work every day. And you know, Bert will be the first to tell you that he's never worked a day in his life at Valley Crest because he enjoys it so much. Bert grew his business from one branch to the over 110 maintenance branches today by empowering our branch managers to manage their branches how they see fit. We trust they know their market and what their customers are needing and wanting. I travel around the country working with the various branches in the area of water management, and the good news is, to a person, every branch manager I've worked with has agreed water management is going to be one of the most important critical success factors to our business in the future. I really wanted to share that with you today because I think you'd find that very important, because it's one thing to have the ability to create change, but even more important to have the desire. So as much as I'd like to keep talking about Valley Crest, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is talk to you about sustainable practices you can use for commercial landscape management. So what is smart irrigation? You know, I was recently reading Charles Fishman's new book, The Big Thirst, and he points out water in which the past has been clean, plentiful, and cheap in the future will be much more expensive, not necessarily clean, and not as plentiful. We're already seeing rates increase dramatically, and the use of non-potable water is increasing, and we've recently experienced some water scares in the U.S. But I think it's still a general overall feeling that water is plentiful, which leads us to statistics like we see on this slide, where it's estimated that over 50% of urban water use is for landscape irrigation. Now, traditional timers were great when they were first developed, and I guess there's still a few hose draggers out there. I don't really see that many. But I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, where flood irrigation was prevalent, and we got our residential irrigation from a valve in the corner of the yard. You read on a posted board at the end of the alley what time of day or night you were supposed to open the valve and how long you were supposed to keep it open. The idea was you opened the valve, the water flooded your yard, and then when the time that you were allotted elapsed, you closed the valve, and then your neighbor did the same thing. You know, that sounded great on paper, but your water could come at 3 in the morning, and oftentimes your neighbor might fall back asleep and not shut their valve, and you wouldn't get your water, and we'd see water waste all over the sidewalks, streets, on and on. But so compared to those times, you know, a traditional water timer or traditional automatic timers are fantastic. And I think it's important to remember that actually a traditional timer is doing its job just by coming on and shutting off when it's supposed to. But we really do see some challenges with this, mostly in the area of overwatering, because typically the controllers are set to water for maximum conditions. And as a result, we get problems from overwatering like higher water bills, runoff fines, and damages from runoff. We also get some plant diseases and erosions. And all these lead to poor environmental stewardship. So I really believe that smart controllers can be an excellent solution for this issue. Next, we want to talk about, you know, what actually makes a smart controller smart now. And several things do make a smart controller smart. Instead of just turning valves on and off at a certain time, a smart controller makes the determination to come on or not. And this is when, and then it determines when it does come on, how long to stay on. And this is all based on daily ET. In order to do this, it has to be able to access weather data, and this can be from a sensor or a weather station nearby, or from a weather service that monitors many different weather stations and provides weather data to customers. Some additional things that help make a smart controller smart are the scheduling capabilities, the ability to manage the controllers remotely, and having access to your controllers anywhere you can get an internet connection. To get an understanding of where I think we're going with smart controllers, I like to look at the advances in the energy that energy companies have made with thermostats. In the past, the thermostat in my home, when I had air conditioning in Phoenix, would come on when the temperature of the house got above a certain temperature and stay on until it went below the set temperature. 9 years ago, when I moved to Seattle, we bought a new home, and I thought I was going to have to take a community college class to learn how to use the thermostat. It could figure out what time it should come on in the early morning to make sure the house was heated to a specific temperature when we got up. I could set it so during certain times of the day, like while I was away at work or sleeping, the house would be one temperature, and when I was home and active, it was another temperature. This was great technology. We're seeing even better advances in irrigation controllers, and I'm going to elaborate on some of those later in the presentation. Remember, the old technology would turn irrigation on and off. The new determines if it should come on at all and then how long it should stay on. The thing about the old controllers is that they really did lead to waste. The existing technology prevalent throughout the U.S. for a standard timer just didn't comprehend any of the critical factors that horticulturists and agricultural scientists have been using for years to determine water needs. In this example, the existing technology waters landscapes 15 minutes a day, whether a plant needs it or not. It just comes on, stays on for 15 minutes, shuts off, and does it day after day. It also fails to consider actual landscape needs that are based on things like plant types or sprinkler types or sun exposure. So once again, it's working great if it comes on and then turns on at a certain time. But we really need to do something a little bit more advanced in this day and age to help with water management. So really the answer is smart water management. And smart water management means applying the right amount of water at the right time. The water schedule is dynamically and automatically adjusted every day. So as you can see in the slide in this example, the first day when we have a partly sunny day, the water might come on for 6 minutes in just one zone. Then the next day when it's fully sunny and a little warmer, you might get 6 minutes in each of 2 zones. And then the third day when it's raining, because the information is downloaded to the controller and it knows it's raining, there's going to be no water. And then the next day, maybe when we have a little bit more rain, we might just get 4 minutes on one zone and no water in the next. And then the next day when it heats back up, but because it's rained for a couple days, we only need 3 minutes a zone. This is the new technology, and this is great for saving water. And then in addition, most of the smart timers take into account important factors which affect ET, like we learned earlier. And these are things like plant type, soil type, and sun exposure. Also factors like wind, temperature, and solar radiation and humidity are factored into the water schedule. And the key again is this information is loaded into the controllers on a daily basis. If you recall, most timers are adjusted probably 4 times a year, a good percentage 12 times a year, and just a few on a weekly basis. We now have the ability to adjust daily, and that's making a huge difference on savings. This is not to say that water managers have been doing a bad job in the past. This is just new technology developed, making it practical to adjust timers on a daily basis. So next thing we're going to do is switch over to a couple case studies. The first case study is going to be with the city of Santa Clarita, where they undertook the largest smart controller upgrade project of its kind in the world in order to leverage sustainable benefits for the city and for its residents. The city of Santa Clarita is a beautiful little community about 35 miles north of downtown Los Angeles. And it incorporated back in 1987, so it's not unlike a lot of the residential cities that we had cropping up around Los Angeles, beautiful home communities that are great places to raise and educate your kids. The city provides services for a population of about 180,000 residents within a 52 square mile area. The city started to evaluate their water use and started to evaluate this project. And as they did that, they looked at their historical irrigation water usage reports, and they really realized early on that they had some vast room for improvement. As water resources continue to be stressed in California, it was imperative that cities really improve on water use efficiency in order to ensure available water for the future. So their goal was to reduce consumption and control costs. because we really do think, or their water purveyors also thought that they might see a 20 to 40% increase in water costs during the next 1 to 2 years. So the city thought, once again, taking a look at the lowest hanging fruit, they thought smart controllers could be the way to go, probably the way to go as far as lowest investment, biggest return on their investment. They ran some field tests with several models over a 6-month period of time. And after they ran those field tests, they decided to install the WeatherTrack smart controllers because they really received the WeatherTracks did perform better than the others. So after they made that choice, it was interesting to me to see what are some of the key technology criteria they looked at in selecting a smart controller. And the first thing they wanted to talk about was the ease of installation. And the cost of an installation of, in this case, over 500 controllers throughout the city can be a large percentage of the total cost of the project. And once again, the easier the installation goes, the less money is involved for that. And we found, and we, Valley Crest, we actually did the installation of these smart controllers. We found the installation process to go very smoothly, no extra holes to drill in your controllers, all the hardware comes with the controllers, and then, probably the thing that I like the best is the ease of the activation. We dial an 800 number, give them some information, and within 5 to 7 minutes, we usually have the controllers up and running. The other thing that was really important to the city of Santa Clarita was the power of central management. This really allows for real-time monitoring and instant access to controllers anywhere, anytime. So, as I mentioned before, is that the controller technology is great and vast and important, but what's equally important is to be able to look at data and make adjustments accordingly. Not every irrigation was designed perfectly, and the ones that were designed perfectly aren't always installed perfectly, and then over time, things change. So having the ability to look at data remotely, analyze it, and make changes was another real key to the city of Santa Clarita in choosing the WeatherTrack smart controllers. And then lastly, the reliability of the water efficiency. The city of Santa Clarita expects to save about 180 million gallons of water every year, and they made a substantial investment in these smart controllers in order to do that. There's going to be a lot of eyes watching this project, and believe me, probably number one was the reliability of water efficiency, because people in the city of Santa Clarita know that a year from now, 2 years, 3 years down the road, this will be evaluated, and so they know they're going to be evaluated, and the success of the project is going to be based on how much water they save. So the reliability of the water efficiency becomes really critical. I said earlier, it's important to inspect what you expect, and we wanted to look at once again establishing some potential results that or goals that we would want outcomes of this project. And the first measurement of success was timeline and delivering the installation and the scope for each site on a timely basis. And the scope of work said we had 120 days to complete the project. We actually completed the project in half that time. And the reason why we did that is we put some more labor to the project because of really three things. One, we wanted to be sure we got all the controllers installed in a time before the hot part of the summer came. So we had time to make adjustments to the system before really that hot weather came. Two, we wanted to keep the controllers online as long as possible. We didn't want to be without water for any significant time. And then lastly, by finishing 60 days early, the city of Santa Clarita saved thousands of dollars because they were able to start reducing the amount of water they used 2 months earlier. So that was really important to us on the measurement. Then, as I mentioned before, ongoing measurements of success is going to be in the gallons as well as the aesthetic appearance. Based on early results, the city is on track to save 180 million gallons annually. And to put that into a little perspective, that's the equivalent of about 600 Olympic-sized swimming pools full of water every year. And then we do know that water rates are going to continue to rise, but the city will be able to minimize those operating costs with sustained water savings. And we really feel at smart water management. It's a win-win for Santa Clarita and its taxpayers.